Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to the Master Your Mindset podcast. I have our special friend here back with us again today, and she's a very familiar, I was going to say face, but yeah, I guess if you watch the videos on Claire's YouTube, you can see her face. So she's a very familiar face and voice. Back with us today, we have Claire Chancellor. Hello.
Hello, everybody. I can't wait for this conversation, Jess.
Me too. So we are on to number 5 out of our 6-part series, and we're recording all about mediumship today. And I'm really excited about this. I say that every time, but I'm really excited about this conversation because I feel like this has been such a turning point in my life for a lot of different reasons, which we can probably get into. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's really cool the way that we've sort of run with these topics that we have had. I know that we definitely wanted to talk about tarot and past lives, and then I know that we were sort of just tuning into what feels like the message needs to get out to the listeners. So it's really, really cool that this is coming up, and I hope that, the listeners really, well, they will find value out of it, but it is the message that they need to hear at the time. So that's really cool.
Yeah, this conversation, mediumship, is so very near and dear to my heart. And I'm really looking forward to the questions that you asked, Jess, because mediumship, I know we're going to go into it, but mediumship actually saved my life. And it's just, again, so near and dear to me. So, yeah, let's get started, Jess.
Amazing. So, as always, I think the very first question is to just explain a little bit about what it is. So, I would love to know what mediumship is and how it's different to psychic readings.
Yeah, perfect place to start. And when it comes to the different semantics of what's mediumship and clairvoyance and psychic, they all have a different meaning and they all require different tools in the toolkit. So mediumship specifically is about being the conduit, being the middleman, and being able to connect into the consciousness and the loved ones in the spirit world, to the people here in their human 3D bodies. So mediumship is all about connecting to dear ones who've crossed over. We could say dead people, but that's a bit tacky, and my trainer would slap me on the wrist. But yeah, mediumship is all about talking to the loved ones in spirit world, to bring forward proof of survival and evidence that they're still around to the people here on the 3D planet. Whereas psychic is all about tuning into the sitter, tuning into, such as you, Jess, sitting into your energy that's currently in front of you, that you're currently projecting, that is a possibility of what you want to create for your future. So very, very, very different. One's about future reading and one's about connecting in with loved ones in the spirit world.
I actually didn't know that. That's really cool. Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah, oh wow. So
Yeah.
I know, I already know this, that you are a medium. But I was just
Yes.
wondering if, like, how does that work? Have you been a medium all your life?
Yeah. Yeah. For the people who are listening, you can't see me nod until you can't see me nod. But for the people on YouTube, you can see my head like, yeah, bobbing up and down. I'm a natural born medium. I've had this gift absolutely all my life, to the point of being a little one and being able to say to mum, like, Nana's about to ring. And sure enough, the phone would call and Nana rings. And the reason that I got that information was because, my spirit guides and the people in the spirit world were playing with me, sitting there on the floor, playing with me, telling me what I needed to know. So
Mm,
yeah, mediumship has absolutely been there all my life. But to the point where it got to about high school and realizing other people don't have this gift, that was mind-blowing for me to realize, like, how are you guys walking this planet without that connection to your guides and the loved ones in the spirit world? So yeah, I think I've answered that question, Jess, but
mm,
yeah, always been a medium.
yeah. And so do you at the moment, are you doing mediumship readings for people?
Not specifically, but when it comes to doing one-on-one coaching with people and
Yeah.
and their loved ones start to come forward, absolutely, I will create the space for that. But
Yeah.
not directly. When it comes to mediumship, you are definitely using a different part of your brain. Mediums have to go into what's called a theta brainwave to be able to connect into that higher frequency. And so there's some knowing and there's some training in being able to do that, to then being able to bring forward the messages. So the messages can be a bit spontaneous if I'm a little bit in a meditative kind of state, you know, walking around in a bit of a daydream. Spirit world are going to be a lot clearer in their connection with me. But if I'm doing NLP training and coaching, I am switched on into that logical part of my mind and listening to what the person is saying, thinking of that next dynamic question. So it's definitely like that left brain, right brain side of things. So the short answer is no, I don't specifically, but I haven't turned it off. It is still there.
Yeah. Because I just wanted to know like what the process looks like to set up for a reading and to, you know, do the reading. What does that process look like?
Yeah, so I'm going to backtrack a little bit because I have sat in circle for about, so sitting in circle means going to a group where you can bring in structure for your mediumship. Before I was before I sat in circle, I would be quite tacky. Think about like an 18-year-old. This actually happened, but being an 18-year-old, switched on to spirit, not knowing about permission or structure or anything about that. And I found myself actually at the naturopath desk once and said, whoa, I'm hearing splat. Somebody's recently jumped off a bridge, and the receptionist going, this is my first day back at work. My husband's just recently committed suicide and jumped off a
Oh,
bridge. And I'm like, oh, an 18-year-old? I'm like, oh, okay. And completely unaware of boundaries and structure, structure and
mm,
things like that. So that's when I had to sit in circle. And learning about how you invite spirit in at an appropriate way. And I sat in on Circle Jess for about 8 to 10 hours every single week for about 8 years. So every Friday, every Wednesday night, and learning about how I set up for a mediumship reading and getting up on stage, and learning how everybody else sets up for a reading. Everybody's process is a little bit different. And so, so answering your original question there, how do you set up for a reading? It is all about intent. It is about quietening your mind, pushing away the to-do list and everything else that needs to get done, and really focusing the energy to go into that theta brainwave, to connect into the spirit world, telling my guides like, yes, I'm ready to work, letting what we call the gatekeeper open up the door so that queue of spirits can come forward. And Jess, it's just about it's just about trusting and letting that information start to come in when I'm ready. So, but again, different mediums set up in a different way. I know some mediums would have to meditate for an hour before, or some people just know that when they get up on stage, bang, spirits with them. And so the messages start to come
mm.
in. So it's a long way to answer that one little question. I'm sorry, Jess.
No, please do not be sorry. And I speak for the listeners too. They always say, no, keep going. We love hearing all of it from Claire. But I'm just, so many things are coming to my mind. And okay, so it sounds like when you say you sitting in circle, it's you building the skills to really understand, you know, create the boundaries for yourself and for others, and just really
Yeah.
building those skills to become like a very like understand how you want to do your mediumship readings and set up for that. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so circle is about whether it's 3 or 4 people or 25 people in I've sat in on a circle that had about 100 people, but it's literally sitting in a group. We sit in a circle and everybody takes turns to do readings for one another. And then that way, in that setting, you get the feedback on what you did right, what you could do better,
Mm,
what you got completely wrong. And it's
mm,
all about building up that awareness. So I know that there's some people that think, oh, well, if I sit in on circle for like 6 weeks, you know, I'm going to have the gift. It's going to, you know, be there and hone in on it. And it really does take a long time to master the skills, because when I say long time, because the minute that you think that you're comfortable at one level, the spirit world offers you a new level and a new level and a new level. So somebody may start off with just sort of the vague idea of I've got your family here, da 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 da. And then you start to build up your knowledge on how to get names, how to get really specific information. And it's a lot of fun, Jess.
Mm, yeah. And I also want to circle back to, because I had another thought. So the readings and how to prepare for the readings. So the last mediumship reading that I had done for me.
Yeah, that you
So
received, yeah.
that I received, yeah. The lady, she was so lovely. And I hadn't met her yet. This was my first time. Okay, so this was over Zoom, but we
Yeah.
hadn't met yet. We hadn't seen each other, what we look like, and all the things. And she asked me, she was talking to me. She goes, I woke up this morning and I just woke up with a headache and it's just so interesting. I wasn't sure why. And then because she woke up in the morning with the headache, but then we weren't having our call until later on that night.
Yeah.
So this is how long she was connecting in with me. Anyway, she realized she was connecting in with me,
Yeah.
and my loved ones, and essentially she was connecting in with my mum, and she was asking me, like, is it something to do, was there an injury, or was there some sort of something to do with her? And I said, yeah, with my mum, like, you'll be getting the headache from what happened to her. So it's really interesting how much you can really connect into the person. And yeah, it's just like there's such a strong connection there, isn't there?
Yeah. Yeah. And so she offered you that information. She told you like, yep, basically mum's been with me all day and bringing in headaches and messages and confirmation. Yeah, that's extraordinary. So
Yeah, she could see that I was quite open, and it was actually her asking me, okay, okay, so if we're getting into this, it was really funny because, when my mum and my grandfather come through, they're running. They want to be the first one to come through. They're always like, no, me, they're pushing each other out of the way. It's so funny. You've actually told me this before, and I've had this told to me a couple of times, which is quite funny to me. But yeah, so that's when she was asking me, is it one of these two, the female or the male figure that's coming through? She at this point didn't know who they were to me. And I did say, so I'm like, it's interesting how you can connect so much, and she can be with you, or they can be with you all day until our call. um
yeah.
just they're coming through so strong. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And aren't they cheeky? Your mum and your grandfather, like they're like the minute that appointment was made, they were like, boom, we are here, we are here, we are here, and just nag, 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 like, yeah, wait.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
And you're
so
right. There is some people that will come into circle and they're like, oh, I can't do it. I've had this splitting headache all day. No, 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 no. All the mediums are like, that's because spirit's with you. That's because you've got somebody there who's probably had a head injury or suffered migraines or something like that. And for the sitter, that's the detail that they need. Oh, yeah, mum always had her migraines, or oh yeah, and then the minute that you say it, like, okay, I know I've got an energy here, a woman, I know that she's complaining about the headaches, da 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 da. Can you place this? And then the minute you say yes, your energy the energy just frees up and is like, oh, I can think again. And it's like, and then you go to the medium, you go to the spirit, and they're like, okay, well, what else do you want Jess to know? And they're like, okay, we'll tell Jess that we saw her, no, 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 and she needs to, no, no. And
yeah,
all of this more information will start to come in a little bit like a wave of the energy. So it's a lot of fun.
she did say that as well. As soon as I acknowledged that it was her, she goes, oh, thank you. Oh, wow. So I wanted to know, like, how does it work for you? Is it, can you see our loved ones on the other side? Can you hear them? What is it like for you?
Yeah, that's where the semantics of, are you clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient? There's a few of those clairs, which mean that some mediums or intuitive people are more visual, clairvoyant, they're more visual, whereas there's people that will hear the message, they'll know the message, they'll they'll actually smell the perfume. They'll or they'll even get a taste, like, oh, I can taste Nana's banana bread or something like that. Like, all of your senses get completely immersed in the experience of mediumship. And so if you're an artist and you're far more visual, it is highly likely that the spirit world will bring forward pictures. And, like, a picture speaks 1,000 words. So you may get like a picture of a lemon tree, and it's like, bang, I've got a piece of information. I know that the lemons or lemon tree is important to you. And they're like, yeah, Nana, was a lemon tree farmer. I have no idea. But but it's they may not bring forward the specifics. Sometimes they do, but they tend to work in symbols, be it pictures, or you'll have a knowing, or you can hear the words, you can feel their energy. So it just depends on where your strengths are in the way that you communicate day in, day out. Does that make sense, Jess?
Yeah, that does make sense. Yeah.
So it's taken me a while. I used to start off with a knowing. I would know that there was a female energy with me, let's say. And then once I got that confirmation, then they would start to bring in more and more pictures and symbols. Like the specific one that I'm being told about, the one that's been brought to my attention, was a friend's grandmother. And I was minding my own business. I was in my garden, and then she stepped forward, and then she started showing me football colors and the little hat that she knitted, and make sure that you bring forward that teddy. All of these messages started to come through, and, texted Emma and like, do you know about this? And she's like, yep. And apparently, like, her son was in hospital and they forgot to bring in his teddy. And it was like, well, Nana says
yeah,
to bring in the teddy. So there is that bit of combination to know how a medium is getting their information. It's actually a really key point, because once you know how you work, then you can build on that strength. So it's interesting to me that not many mediums actually work out how they work. So
yeah, true. So I'm interested. Okay, so I guess first, how much information do you need to know from me, or like, do I have to ask you questions? Yeah, how does that work?
Well, take me back to when you wanted that mediumship reading. Like you said earlier that you were like really open, and like what was it for you that got your heart all excited to go to a medium? Like, what was it for you, Jess?
Like for me making the decision to get a mediumship reading?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I've had a couple mediumship readings, and it's for me, I want to connect with my mum and my grandfather and my Uncle Wayne. And from the this might be getting into a lot and going off on a tangent, but from the very first mediumship reading, I just have had such an easier way to deal with death. So it's just helped me so much deal with death, and it's so fine for me now, if I can say that. Obviously it's still hard, and there's that grieving process. Like, my grandma on my dad's side passed about a month and a half ago, but it doesn't have to be so hard for me, because I'm like, oh, now I can just connect myself, or I can go and connect a little bit more. So it's more the reason that I wanted to have that first mediumship reading and continue to go back is connecting with my loved ones, and not feeling like it's actually, I'm not going to see you again. It's like I get to see you whenever I want, however many times I want, and you're still there, and we're all still connected.
So there's that healing to that grief, and it's that instead of that lost, where are you, I'll never see you again, there's just that moment of like, oh, she's okay, they're okay, they're having a party, they're all good. And that they're not lost in this, our minds build up all sorts of crazy ideas, like, oh, they're lost in this black vortex or nothing, and like, no, they're still hanging out with you. But Jess, it sounds like you were completely open, your walls down, and it was just like, okay, I'm open to the experience, whatever comes will come. And that's exactly, you would be the absolute cherry on the cake, perfect person to do a reading for, because your energy's relaxed. You're not sitting there with your arms crossed, like, prove it to me, it's sort of like, no, that flowing energy meant that the more that your spirits, your loved ones, can come through. But for somebody who's incredibly skeptic, who is testing that medium, who, you know, wants hard-hitting facts, a very, very, very strong medium will be able to read for you, but it won't be it won't be as nearly as enjoyable as the person who's like just open to all the experiences and the surprises that come with it. So it is absolutely worthwhile, if you're thinking about getting a mediumship reading, before the reading, to let your spirits know, like, Mom, I want to, you know, I know you know that the appointment's made, but please come, you know, please be the first that steps through, because your intention is going to build that energy just as much as the mediums. So yeah, Jess, if you're somebody who wants a mediumship reading, just be open to what's possible, and basically tell your loved ones to get in the queue. It is happening.
Yeah. Yep. It's true, because the more you're open, the more that they're gonna give you, and it's like you're right, it is going to be more of an enjoyable experience. The more is going to come through for you. You're going to get more answers. You're going to get more questions. You're going to get more insights. And I know
Yeah.
for sure, as I've got more mediumship readings, it's just been like a lot easier and flowy for me. I get so excited, and I
Yeah.
just, especially my last mediumship reading, so much came through, and I was just so happy. And my, like, you know, my grandfather and my mum, they were telling me so many things about, like, you know, the future, and like what I should do, and like, you know, like all of these things. And it was just so cool to get some sort of like direction from, like, what, you know, kind of like, as if
Yeah.
I never really got that to go to my mum and be like, what do you think, you know? But
Yeah.
I do still get that, so it's really cool. Yeah.
And of course, she's still got her agenda, right? Even in the
Yeah.
spirit world, she's got her ideas and beliefs and filters and of how her daughter should be.
Mm-hmm.
So the answer from, you know, the direction from your mum will be very, very different to the answer from your grandfather. And that too will be very, very different to actually connecting into your higher self and saying, you know, what do I do to navigate this? So if your mum was, you know, baby crazy and wanted grandkids, she's like, yeah, let's get married, let's do it. And compared to your grandfather, who'd be like, no, just wait, child.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually knew you were going to say that. It's so true. Yeah. Especially when you're like, and then it's different to your higher self.
Yeah, they still have an agenda. I know I've had people, whether it's coaching or mediumship, tarot reading, and they're like, tell me what I should be doing. And it's like, there isn't any shoulds, and you can't get it right and you can't get it wrong. There are lessons and teachings in front of you. And depending on how you navigate that, depends on how hard you're going to make it for yourself. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I actually want to go here, because we're talking about well, like, a lot about the other side of the spirit world and things. And you say about, like, they have their own agenda and all of this. But
Yeah.
I did wonder, for someone who left unexpectedly, let's say, for example, like committing suicide, because it's actually interesting with, like, the divine timing and this podcast and everything that has happened in the way and the timing that it has. We had someone in the shipyard. We're currently in the shipyard, and sort of all the boats are connected. We've been here for months now, and we've all sort of connected. But someone, we have found out that during the weekend they committed suicide. So I know that there's a lot of talk around, you know, what happens to them and all of the things. So I was just wondering, like, yeah, I guess to help out some people that may have been in a situation similar to this, or know someone, what
Yeah.
happens to them, and where do they go? And yeah.
Yeah, it can be a tricky conversation to navigate. And my intention to share my point of view, and it is my point of view, you can take it or leave it, but from thousands and thousands of readings and connecting in with people who have crossed over by their choice, you know, to commit suicide, I've only got my perspective to share here. So 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 when you started off I'm so sorry to hear that, by the way, Jess. I'll skim past that, but it makes the energy a bit for you as a somebody who's facilitating the podcast. It you know, it can be a little bit unsettling, but I also know that this conversation, the divine timing, hopefully it will bring a little bit of clarity so that you do feel more settled and can see things from a different point of view. So when you were saying earlier about, somebody dying unexpectedly, I reflect on a cousin-in-law who he died unexpectedly, but in a train accident. And before before this incident was even in front of him, he had already started doing those things of like setting up his will and cleaning up his closet. And I'm not saying don't go set up your will, because that means you're going to preempt anything. But there was this sort of knowing that at 42 he would be going sooner than later. Like there was this soul's knowing. And so he used to, I'm not sure if I could swear in here, but he used to heap a lot of crap on me about my mediumship and like, oh, you're full of it, la 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 la. Well, you know what, Jess, the night that he died, he was the first one at my door saying like, can you contact my wife? Can you let my kids know I'm okay? No, 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 no. And I was like, hold on, what? Like,
yeah.
And he kept showing me how he died. And then he started showing me where things were in and around his home that he wanted at his funeral. Like it was all of this planning. I was like, wait a minute, I'm still catching up. Like I haven't even heard any confirmation that you've died yet. And so I bring this forward as an example that you may be skeptical in the human world, but when you're over in the spirit world and you see like that taxi light of a medium, and it's like somebody who can hear me, get the message across, they're normally the first ones knocking at the medium's door. And so that one's a really beautiful story of mine, because he'd said his wife had contacted me and said, like, I'm looking for that one thing for his funeral. And I contacted him. He's like, it's outside, it's in the shed, it's on the third shelf down at the back. And it was like, yep, okay. So
yeah, wow.
Yeah, so that's like the unexpected deaths. On some higher level, the soul knows that they're going. And in fact, I believe we're offered about 7 exit points. So these exit points are there for that, again, free will and higher. We're talking about a higher power and a higher knowing. And it's like this knowing that like I've actually completed this soul contract and I need to leave. And it's like, do you turn left or do you turn right? And one option opens you up to a whole new soul contract that's available to you, and you turn the other direction and it's like, actually, this one's finished, I'm ready for the next one. So there's different soul exit points. We say a cat has 9 lives. But before I go on to the next topic of that suicide side of things, Jess, do you have any questions on what I'm talking about here?
No, I think this makes sense. This makes sense to me, yeah, for sure.
Okay. And so for somebody who has committed suicide, there's an interesting thing playing out. So let's go back to the soul contract between lives. When you're there at the soul contract table saying, okay, I want to come in this lifetime, I want to learn about financial hardship, I want to learn about this, I want to learn about that, all of these heavy lessons, because in the spirit world, we only have that love, happiness, vibration. So to see Earth have all of this polarity, and it's like, oh, let me evolve, let me explore all of that juicy stuff, the grief, the hate, like, yes, let me get in there and do it. And they're like, are you sure? Like your guides, they're like, are you sure? And what they don't tell you is that you move through this veil of amnesia. And so when you get here, you're like, oh my gosh, where this is so heavy, this is so dense. And it's not that we're not prepared for it, but there's a forgetful part that makes it that much difficult. So somebody who's had that signed up for a really heavy duty soul contract tells us that their soul is quite evolved, that the team, the higher self, would actually let them in for something like that. And the thing is, if it does become too heavy and too dense and they can't navigate that, they commit suicide. The interesting thing is they go back to the spirit world, they have a level of a life review, a level of healing brought upon them, and then that soul contract gets repeated again, not necessarily with the exact same, your mum's your mum and da-da-da-da-da, but it's like, actually, I've got to go finish that soul contract of the financial hardship and the heaviness and the weight. And so I know personally that my lifetime, just before this one, I had committed suicide. And when I got to the exact same age in that past life where I was suicidal, the suicidal tendencies started to come in. I felt trapped. There was no way out. And to be frank with you, there was such a wanting to leave that my guides came in and went, you remember what happened last time? If you leave too soon, I've got to do this all over again. And so they had put things in place. My dog would come to me and all sorts of distractions, and the phone would ring, all sorts of distractions that stopped that playing out, because finishing this soul contract was so, so important. And so reflecting on other friends who've had loved ones who have committed suicide, not a problem. On some level, the soul already kind of knew that would be a challenge. It would be there. It was a choice. It was a free will choice. But they're still going to be with you. They're still going to be there to support you. And on some level, as crazy as it sounds, on some level, there's a soul-to-soul lesson in somebody leaving so soon. It's like, actually, maybe I was taking life for granted. Maybe I wasn't appreciating everything that I had. Do you know what I mean? Like there could be that soul-to-soul lesson about learning your strength and your endurance and the resources available to you. It really, somebody had said, and I feel like I'm talking a million miles an hour, but somebody had said to me, like if somebody jumps in front of a train, think about all of the horrific trauma, that's that ripple effect of the services that get involved. And I said, what about that person who's sitting in the car going, okay, I actually need to go into psychology. I actually need to go into counseling. Something needs to be done about this. So there's two sides of the coin when it's like, gosh, the trauma they leave behind, but also the inspiration that is built in that moment. So I'll take a breath. I'll let you talk now, Jess. Any
Yeah.
questions?
No, I'm really taking it in, and it's like it is wow, like oh, like yeah, I don't know. It's just like it's very comforting. I personally don't have anyone in my life that I know have committed suicide. Like with the man today, he wasn't someone that I knew personally. It just was like this whole feeling like of the collective of the entire shipyard. Like it just
Yeah.
felt very gloomy. But I have always known myself, or maybe I've like learned that, maybe I've heard it from you, but people that do pass, they do go over to the other side, and it is like you say, when they come here to polarity, to experience
Yeah.
polarity, it's not like that in the spirit world, is it? It's
Yeah.
complete love and like all of
High
that.
vibrational joy,
Exactly.
compassion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I think that is another one of the things that made me have so much more acceptance to death. I'm like, like especially when it comes to my mum, I'm like, well, she died so young. She died at 38 years old. Like, why? Like, and then so now after learning so much, I realize the reasons why, and that everyone has their time, but actually she's gone to a place that's beautiful. It's not, it doesn't have to be so painful and all the things anymore. So I don't
Yeah.
know, hearing all of this brings a lot of acceptance, and especially when we're talking about the example that we are talking about, but just like for everyone that passes, like it isn't like a big scary place that they go. It's just full of love and high vibration. Yeah.
Doing readings for people, and you're saying, I've got an Edward here, and he's talking about dancing. He's back in the spirit world, he's dancing, and then the sitter bursts into tears and like, wow, he lost the use of his legs for 10 years, and to hear that he's back in the spirit world and he's dancing, and it's like, I've got actually no evidence that he is dancing, but to hear the messages come forward that he wanted you to know, like he's free, and he's free of the grief and the heaviness. I know when my grandmother comes in, my grandmother, really, really loving, beautiful energy. And every time I dream about her, or she takes me back to the spirit world, she's got the biggest kitchen and all of the cup of tea ladies with her, and they're making cakes, and she's there welcoming in the spirits who are just freshly new into the spirit world. It's like, here, have a cup of tea, have a carrot cake, let's sit down, let's have a chat. Like, yeah, that's my it's my grandmother. And the weirdest thing about Nanny is that I had a dream about her where she had said, oh, Darl, I've missed your birthday. I'm going to put something in the mail. And lo and behold, there was my grandfather just got this inspiration to, and my birthday's in December, so this was like June, and he put a check in the mail, and there's it's actually behind me. He painted the little blue wren, which is my symbol for Nanny. And here, I'm not sure why I'm giving you this, but I've missed a couple of your birthdays. I'm like, how did she organize that in the spirit world?
Yeah.
Like, really?
Yeah. Oh my
I do
gosh.
this every day. I'm like, how did that happen? Like,
Yeah.
miracles are amazing. So,
Oh my gosh. I love that. I love that so much. Yeah, see,
yeah,
this is just all I know that I kind of circling back, but I'm just gonna end it like on
yeah,
this.
yeah,
A lot of people get really nervous and scared for mediumship readings, but honestly, this is what it's about. Like it's such like a light
yeah.
feeling. You get to meet with your loved ones. It's so nice and loving. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're naughty. And they're naughty.
Yeah.
You know that
Oh.
some of the I'll share with you because I know we got to swing back to finish some things there on that heavier conversation, but just to bring some light and curiosity into the conversation, I was on stage once doing mediumship, obviously, and saying, I've got your uncle here, whoever was in the audience, I've got your uncle here, and they're telling me that there was an insurance scam. You guys burnt down the back of the house, apparently. And my teacher's just spitting out his coffee, going, Claire, you can't say that. And I'm like, I'm just giving what I'm getting. And they were quite naughty. And she's like, yeah, that was 20 years ago. Yep, I can place that. And they're like, oh my gosh. And then the next reading after that was, may I come to you? And I'm being shown the numbers. I have no idea. Like I'm being shown the numbers 1278 or something like that. And can you place that? And she's like, hmm. She didn't place it in that moment, but about 6 months after that, she contacted me and she said, there was no way I was going to take that information in front of the audience because you got my PIN number exactly. And when you said, like, my nana's been looking over my shoulder, these numbers are important to you, I was just like, I couldn't make that up if I
Oh,
tried.
yeah.
So they're naughty, Jess. They're like your grandfather. He's one in the naughty category, right? Like thinking about Santa's good list and naughty list.
I would actually think my mum would be more on that side, but together, no doubt they're naughty together.
Yeah, because like every time I was saying to Jess before we hit record, like every time we in my studio office, like Jess's mum will always sit there and she'll always boss me around about do my lippy and look good on the camera. And I was like, my mum doesn't boss me like that, but Jess's mum does. And is that right? Your mum's the boss?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, from what I remember, and also from all the stories, my mum, she had a very stubborn personality. She was very feisty, and yeah, we both me and my sister definitely get some parts of mum like that as well. So especially when it came to netball, like I don't know why this is coming to me, but like we used to be quite like feisty but like playful and like quite stubborn. Like we would stand our ground, we wouldn't let anyone like shift us. And dad would always say, oh, you're stubborn like your mother, aren't you?
And she'd have been on the side of the court cheering you
Yeah.
on, like, ah, yes.
And me and my sister would be so proud when we hear that. We're like, yes, yes we are.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Uh,
so oh yes, so we are circling back. Yeah. Yeah, another topic or another part that I wanted to bring into this now that we're talking about like unexpected deaths and things.
yeah,
I also wanted to speak to uh let's say if someone has had a miscarriage or someone has chosen to abort
yeah,
in their
yeah. And that could
situation.
be,
Yeah,
yeah.
how does that go? How does that look?
Yeah, and again, that could be, again, we're going down some really heavy duty sort of conversation here, and it's only my perspective, whether that's that medical abortion, a miscarriage. I've been an egg donor to couples and gone through miscarriage, and I've got such a curiosity about fertility, and why we come to this world. So again, this is just my experience. But going back to that soul contract table, going back to the idea of like, okay, we're coming into this world of polarity. We need to bring light to this world and so on and so forth. There may be a woman who says, you know what, I'm going to put my hand up and I want to learn about fertility. I want to learn about what it's like to have a womb space and to create life. And knowing that, I also want to experience the polarity. Think about it in the spirit world, not from the conscious human way that we see life, but to see Earth and see the polarity, the hate, the grief, everything else is like, actually, I want to learn the polarity of to bring life into this world and the challenges of not bringing life into this world, what that means for my identity and my spiritual growth. And so in doing so, she puts her hand up, and then another soul may put their hand up and say, you know what, I haven't been to Earth for like thousands of years. I just need a strong soul who can just let me dive in, hold my breath, let me dive into this world, experience the energy here through a pregnancy. But that's all I need. That's all I want. And then that soul contract is created to say, okay, I'm here just for a moment in time, and then I'm out. And be that a miscarriage, an accident, and a medical abortion, whatever else is underneath that label. And so it's a soul to soul contract where she learns about the importance of her fertility, and the creation. Think about Mother Earth being a creator herself and the womb space that Mother Earth has. And so it's this, I know I keep saying it, it's that soul to soul contract here, where one soul just needs to come in quickly and then out. And it really isn't any different than the soul who says, I just want to be here for 10 years or for 50 years or 100 years. And then my team's starting to talk about walk-ins. That's a whole nother conversation. We'll just finish this one before they introduce a new topic. But does that make sense, Jess, about the whole, a soul that just needs to be here for a short time to then go back to soul contract day and say, okay, right, I got a dose of that energy. Now I can create a new soul contract to be here for 80 years. Let me get back in that queue. And that's exactly what my daughter Emma did. Emma came in for a short while. I miscarried her. And then a week later, there was no reason, like a week later, I was pregnant again. And instead of carrying a boy, I was carrying a girl. And I had massive dreams of angels saying like, yep, she's back. The energy wasn't right for her to come in as a boy. She needed to leave and she needed to come back with the codes and a new contract for being a woman. So a lot going on there, right? A lot going on. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm so curious about this. And I know that you've told me a bit about your story before. And it's just one of the reasons why I wanted to dive into this as well, because although this could be potentially a bit triggering to someone who may have gone through this, like this is also, like we said in the beginning, like a healing space. Like this is such a healing space, and for acceptance of understanding and knowing what's actually happening, and that there are reasons and they're beautiful reasons, and everything is set in place. And yeah, I think it's really beautiful to talk about. And thank you for sharing your story. I'm always so fascinated about your story.
My story, I'll go into a bit of a synchronicity to show you how strong my belief is in this. Not Emma's miscarriage, but another one that I had. And it happens to be the 22nd today here in Melbourne, but I miscarried on the 22nd of January. A year later, I donated my eggs to an infertile couple, and the egg collection was the 22nd of January. And then a year later, their baby was born on the 22nd of January. And then a year later after that, my twins were born on the 22nd of January. So my intent when I miscarried and I just wanted to give opportunity to somebody else to have a baby, not only full circle, but then I got a double dose of the energy that I had put out into the world. So believe me, when it comes to like IVF and spirituality and everything else, I've explored it to the nth degree. And again, it's only my perspective, but hopefully for the right people who are listening, that will bring in a level of healing and curiosity. And if you don't believe it, that's all good too. I can't believe you're still listening up to this point. So
Oh no, thank you for sharing that story as well. Well, that synchronicity, and it's just, I mean, I believe it so much as well, and I also like to take this in a way of healing, and I think that that will help with the acceptance and the healing for people that need to hear this. If you are here, just know that this is the message that you need to hear today. This is why. This is why.
yeah, take it or leave it. And maybe you know
Yeah.
somebody who needs to hear it as well. But
Yeah.
you know what happened there, Jess? The team started offering in a new conversation, which they didn't tell me that they would be bringing in. Have you heard about walk-ins?
No.
No. You want to go there with me?
Yes, I do.
It's another, since we're going into the weird and wonderful, another angle when it comes to spirituality and these contracts where I was saying to you, like people need to leave early. Um, do you know that there are some beautiful, highly evolved souls that they may get to that point? Let's say that they have a car accident or a coma, something that's happened maybe at the age of 30. And there's a soul contract agreement, very, very, very rare. So when people are listening, that the soul will say, the body no longer serves me. I've done what I need to, and the soul will leave. And the soul contract is somebody who has similar alignment will actually come in. It's called a walk-in, and they don't want to waste their time doing the whole childhood thing. So they then step into the body and um, continue that soul contract. But typically those highly evolved souls are people like mediums and intuitive people, healers that have such a strong light that they need to bring to this world. So it's not just, I need to point out, like this does happen rarely, and I have met a few walk-ins and their stories are absolutely incredible. That 1 minute they're having a traumatic experience with the body, and then the next day when this new soul is in, their feet have grown, they're having to relearn part of their history because they don't remember it anymore. Their taste for food has changed, a little bit like an organ donation, like things have changed for them. And then they just set off on this new quest where their family's like, who is, it's mum or it's dad, but like, who is this person? Because what used to tick them off doesn't tick them off anymore. So yeah, walk-ins, it's a whole nother podcast, right?
Oh my gosh, I'm so many thoughts, so many thoughts. So like, when you say they have to learn parts of their history again, so does this happen when you have a walk-in? Can this just happen to to a healthy person who's walking down the street and but or does it have to be someone who is potentially in a coma, like you say, or
Yeah,
having this experience where they're like sort of near death, but like there's that
yeah,
decision?
near death.
Okay, I'm thinking.
Yeah. Yeah, near death. And some of the famous, I won't name names, but some of the famous thought leaders in spirituality and healing and raising your frequency, a lot of those happen to be walk-ins too, where one previously they were highly depressed. And then it's like, wow, okay, I've got access to new knowledge that needs to be shared. So yeah, whether it's a near-death experience or a coma or something like that, yeah, there tends to be this, and it's similar to like organ donation, but there's this shift in shift
Mm.
in who's yeah, the body that contains them. So it's fascinating. And it is fascinating when I do this sort of work, whether we do life between lives or any hypnotherapy that takes you before this lifetime, but between lives, you can actually go and unpack, why you chose this body, why you chose the country that you chose to be born in, what is part of your purpose here, how did we get off mediumship? But anyway, and so
So I'm so into this.
and so this is where when we think about, people will say, like, oh, this child is sick and what are they're being punished, what's going on here? And it's like, no, there's a much, much, much bigger picture than this one little teeny tiny life that there's answers. I'm going off track, but there's answers beyond this life, is what I'm trying to say. I hand that over to you now, Jess.
Wow. I do have one question. I know that you said the people, I guess, that agree to the walk-in or have this walk-in happen,
Yeah.
do they always know? They know what has happened, or are they potentially someone who has just, say, woken up from the coma and they can't remember bits about their life, and all of a sudden, like you say, their feet have grown, and not that they would remember because that would be something that they're thinking about because they've just woken up from a
Well, their
coma.
shoes
But
don't fit them anymore.
yeah, but do you, if that happens to you, do you always know, or can it be something where you just like have this memory loss as well, like, and you just don't know why? And yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit, because of how rare it is. Some of the questions, I'm having to check in with my team, but they're saying here that, and you can see me every time you see me on camera and I'm flicking my nose, that's because my spirit guides are like right here. They're close. People in my circle know that, like, oh, Claire's twitching her nose, some information's coming in.
Yeah.
Um, but typically the support will be put in place before you won't just be thrust into a family where there's no support. There'll be a close relationship to a really good friend or a spiritual person, or like a case manager might come in who's quite intuitive and they're like, oh, okay, I can see what's happening here. Like, you're not going to be left in the dark, but you may have to go and find the answers. And it's really no different than people waking up spiritually, seeing the 111s and other synchronicities. It's like, you know what, your soul is waking up and you need to go find people who can put the pieces of the puzzle together so that path forward is a lot easier to navigate. So it's really, in some regards, it's no different to somebody spiritually waking up, but there's just more thrust to it, right?
Wow. Cool. Very cool. I love learning new things. This is so
Yeah.
cool.
Good on your team. They're all like, yes, let's talk about the fun stuff. We're like, oh my gosh, Jess, is Instagram ready for this?
Okay. Okay, well, but we can come back into the mediumship then. And something I did want to ask, actually, the listeners wanted to ask is, can you choose? Okay, I know this answer because I know my mum and my mum and ba just are running towards my mediumship reader. But can you choose who comes through, or like how do you choose who
Yeah,
gets to
good
come
question.
through? Mm.
So some mediums will tell you, no, you get what you need. Whoever's in the queue will get in. And then if you're working with a medium who believes that they can tap into the person that you ask for, then yes, you will get it. So there's a yes, no answer. Some mediums no, some mediums yes. I would be more inclined to say that there's a possibility, like, yeah, you want me to talk to mum? Let's bring her forward. Let's set the intention. Let's invite her in to be the first. But sometimes that need to speak to mum can actually get in the way, and the sitter kind of expects, if mum died of a long illness or something, they kind of expect, and their heart looks for them in that energy of illness, and like at a lower vibration rather than where she's in the spirit world in a higher vibration. So sometimes Nana will come in and warm up the space and build that comfort and that calmness so that neediness can settle in the sitter, and then mum can actually come in. So the answer is yes, but the spirit world may play a little bit of a labyrinth game to be able to bring them forward, in my humble opinion. And the other thing there with that one is, like, sometimes if you're so nervous about it or fearful about what's to come, maybe your animal will actually come in. Maybe mum's cat will come in. Maybe mum's dog will come in, and like, oh, okay, yeah, okay, Sally Cat's here, and then because of that comfort, then mum will come in. So I hope I've answered that question, but yeah, we're talking to there's a variety of different ways that could work.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. And then, so what type of information usually comes through them?
Mm. Again, depending on the medium. So what the spirit world will do is they will use your the medium's library of knowledge, their library of life experience. And me and my husband David, we're well attuned to each other that we can actually do what's called a double reading. So David and I can tune into one spirit and read for that one spirit for the sitter. Does that make sense?
Okay,
Two
yeah.
mediums, one ghost, one spirit. It's not a ghost, but anyway, it's a different thing. And so when I'm connecting into, I'm just trying to think of a recent reading that David and I did together. I was getting more of the information, like mum's bringing forward the recipes. She's talking about, yes, the grandkids are going to school and you know, band-aids and kisses and blah 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 blah. Whereas David's energy was his life experience says, oh, mum's talking about her role in the army, and she's talking about, you know, the battleships and blah 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 blah. That is not in my library. I am not going to get that stuff unless I actually go looking for it. So what can come through in a reading will depend on the medium, and you have to trust the law of attraction. You have to trust that that person that you're drawn to, that medium, has similar life experience for you to be drawn to that medium. Because I know I'm thinking of another medium whose son died of a drug overdose, and she is phenomenal at bringing forward, you know, if you're a parent whose child has died of a drug overdose or been sick, she is the one to go to. She knows the bones in and out, all of the dynamics, and she can tune into that. But if you came to me with somebody who's got a history like that, my mama bear instinct is probably going to kick in, and I'll probably cry with you, and I'm not the best medium best
Oh.
medium for that. So yeah, I know I keep asking that question, but you know, like when you obviously, Jess, when you were drawn to the medium that worked for you, obviously there were some similarities in the energy for you to feel so comfortable with them.
I didn't know that there were similarities, but once we met on Zoom and got talking, there were similarities. And she was like, kind of in a way, she could have been like that grandmother figure to me. So she
Yeah,
had lost her daughter,
yeah,
my grandma had lost her daughter, and
yeah.
she was doing a really good job of looking after the daughter's son, her grandson. That's
Yeah,
exactly how my grandparents were for us. They
yeah.
looked after us three. So it was really cool when she was like talking about this. I felt connected to her even more because I was like, we have some similarities in some ways here. It was really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. How
Mm.
nice is that? And then she would just get it, right? She would just
Yeah.
get it, and then without you even asking the question, she would know the question to ask the spirit world, is saying like, I've been in that situation. I know to ask whatever the next question is. Because if we sit there as a medium, go, okay, I'm sitting I'm sitting with a spirit, like, okay, you talk and you just tell me, that's not really the best way to get information. You want to talk to the spirit and like say, okay, now, you know, what can I bring forward for Jess? What's the next piece of information that will help? You know, tell me how you died. Tell me about your funeral. Tell me what Jess has been up to. Tell me what you're doing in the spirit world. So the medium does need to have a list of questions to ask to get the most out of the reading, right?
Yeah. 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 Oh my gosh, this is also interesting. Oh, I
Because
love
could
this.
you imagine, Jess, you being in the spirit world? Like my tutor, Trevor, used to have us do this, but like be in front of a mirror and say, okay, you're the ghost, or I shouldn't say ghost because that's a different energy, spirit. You're the spirit, and put you in front of a mirror and say, okay, now what do you want to tell your kids? And it's like, oh, you know, as sitters, we've got like, give us the evidence. But in the spirit world,
Yeah.
they're in that high vibration, and mostly the message is, I love you, keep going. And you're like,
Yeah.
yeah, that doesn't help. Like, give me the sharp, the
Yeah.
sharp.
Yeah, we know you love me.
Yeah, you wouldn't be here
Um,
without it. But yeah, like, can you imagine just what you would tell like Shannon if God forbid you were in the spirit world, like what you would actually want to tell her?
yeah, yeah. Whoa. I'm just like wow, yeah. But and then so on another Okay, so I feel like personally, I actually wanted to talk about this as well. I feel like I connect
Yeah.
with my mum and Bar, I call him Bar, all the time. And I do that, and I've learned different ways how to do that by asking for signs and things. So even when I'm not having a mediumship reading, I can do that myself. I think that
Yeah.
that's been a really cool way to, sort of still be connected and things. But so I think I know the answer to this question, but like some of the listeners asked, are your loved ones always with you?
Yeah. Well, the answer is sort of. So so in the spirit, it can be a little bit complex for our human 3D brains to get this, but in the spirit world, we're known as what I call to be bilocal. So you think about all of the people in the world who are praying or calling, all the healers who are calling in Archangel Michael, like let's cut cords and Archangel Michael, and he's like, how can he be here all at once? But they have their tools and their tricks to be able to bilocate. So yes, there's a percentage of them in the spirit world, like my nanny just making cups of tea. And then there's also a percentage of them that will drop in. What do you need? I'm here, whatever they need to know. And then they'll typically go back. They are like somebody's always with you, whether it's your guides, your guardian angels, somebody's always with you. But the honest truth is like, no, they're not always with you. And I don't know about you, Jess, but I don't want my nanny in the bedroom when I'm making love to my husband and stuff. Like there are boundaries, right?
I've actually thought about this before.
And the fun thing is like David and I are both mediums, and so like being in that intimate setting and like he'll push my buttons just to play, like, well, careful, I'll call in your mum, and he's like, no.
Oh, that is so funny.
So yes and
Oh,
no, they're with us all the time.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, yeah. That's funny. Yeah, I've actually thought about this in the way of like, let's say for me, my sister, my brother, my grandmother, like I'm like, oh, but like if my mum's here with me, is my mum also with my sister? Is my mum also with my brother? And yeah, so I've sort of had that understanding, like, yep, she's there all the time, and
Yeah.
but she's what is the word? Omnipresent? Is that the word?
I call it bilocate, like two locations,
Okay.
but I'm not sure of the scientific word. The
Oh,
the
I'm not
truth
sure.
is like when our soul, and I know I've said this in another podcast, but if our higher self is like that glass of water, there'll be an essence of percentage of us. That's percentage of us there in that lifetime and in that lifetime, here with us and there with us. So that's where we talk about, let's say somebody like Elvis has passed and there's still his energy in Graceland and people can feel his energy around them. But I also know, well, I cannot know that to be true, but I've been told by my team that he incarnated, so he's come back into a body. He's already here back on the world plane. Whether he's chosen a soul to be another musician again, who knows? They know, I don't. But so when people say like, well, I've lost somebody there in the spirit world, and then they say, well, when are they going to incarnate? When they're going to take a body again? And it's like, it's the science is tricky. They can do both. But
Yeah,
have
yeah.
I just sort of spun you out a bit with that one?
No, no, this is also relevant. I'm loving it. I'm just sitting here like learning and then also taking in, and yeah, no, this is cool. This is cool. Okay, so I was thinking, and I know that we've sort of talked about this in different ways. But I was wondering what time is like in the spirit world.
Yeah, they don't have time in the
Thought so.
spirit world, not like what we have.
Yeah.
It's only our human brains that will put put a post between events to notice that like that time is linear. And that's just how our human brains put things into perspective for us to for us to experience the polarity. But in the spirit world, if 80 years of a lifetime is just a moment for them. It's just like, oh, okay, she's back, like woohoo, party. It's like but for them, you haven't been here on earth, and they've been in the spirit world for 80 years waiting for you. Like, so time is an illusion. That's how you can be in multiple places at once. And that's why when we do past life regression, we can go look at where your soul is still playing, and we can do future progression and have a look at where your soul is going. So yeah, time is that human construct. Yeah, it's a little bit mind-blowing. You have to really understand how consciousness moves to understand that one.
Yeah, no, I think I did know the answer to that question. Especially when we're, yeah. We'll keep it there, otherwise it might get too complicated. But I love, this is just something that I wanted to bring up. I love hearing you always say, oh, woohoo, party. So with you, Claire, just knowing you and talking to you all the time and things, you will always be looking around and you'll be laughing and I know that you're hearing what whether it's guides or loved ones are saying, and I can just feel that cheekiness coming from them, and you'll look somewhere and you'll laugh, and it's just so cool. So I fully believe you when you're saying that some of them are naughty and then some of them are cheeky and then they're having parties. Like I get that. I love that too.
You've been hanging out with David, because we'll be in the car together, and he'll ask me a question, and I'll go quiet my eyes, I'll look around, I'm like, oh yeah, we should do that, and he's like, do what? And I'm like, oh sorry, I forgot. Sorry, what were you saying, David? Because I've gone off talking.
Oh, I love that.
Gone off talking, probably look a bit crazy, but yeah, often in sessions clients get to know that, and I'll ask a question out loud, but it's not to the human.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Sorry. Coming back. I'm just having lots of thoughts here. So I think, yeah. Okay. So if there were to be difficult messages, do you hear that from the loved ones, our loved ones? And then if you do, is it something that you relay, or is it something, because we've spoken about how it's high vibrational and all love, do those messages just not come through because
Yeah,
of
no, they
where?
will.
Okay.
A personal experience of that was 2 weeks before David's heart attack. His mum would be sitting in the back seat of the car. There was a few others, but his mum would be sitting in the back seat, and like, what are you doing? And she's like, no, basically like, I'm here for you. I'm here for David. I'm like, well, that's nice. And then you get in the car again, and there she is, and there she is, and there she is. And it didn't. And then David had his heart attack, and then it was like, oh, I was really angry. I was like, why didn't you? There's a few swear words. Why didn't you tell me? And she's like, well, I couldn't interfere, but I couldn't interfere with David's free will. And I was still here to support. And because of the energy of who she is, it was like, well, if he's alive, good. If he's in the spirit world, even better, because I get to play with him. So there will be. I should have asked the question, I didn't know to. So yes and no, they will sort of preempt, like, to be careful. There'll be red flags, but they are not allowed to interfere with your free will whatsoever, unless you actually ask for it. So that's the same with everybody and everybody's guides. It's a post that I was actually writing last night to say, if you're ridiculously overwhelmed with this massive to-do list, write down what you can do on that to-do list, and then write down everything that you want your guides, the universe, to do. And basically hand that over to them to bring in the synchronicities and the opportunities. They're not allowed to interfere unless you actually ask. And that's where that power of prayer is like, dear God, please help. And it's like, oh, good, she's let the doors in. We can now help. So the truth is, yes, they will give you, if you look for it, if you ask the question, they will tell you. There's some rules on, we're not allowed to tell you if we preempt that you're going to die soon. But I have witnessed, warning signs of seeing a woman very close to miscarriage and saying, you need to put your feet up. This baby is precious. You need to rest. And that's been true. She ended up not listening and then miscarrying and so on and so forth. And then the other way around, those messages come in going, oh, I can see that you want a baby. It's saying September. Like, I know it's January, but if you're doing IVF or something, September is when you should invest your money. So I'm not sure if I've answered your question and gone off on a clear tangent, but the answer is yes, they will tell you, but it's up to but how much you actually
Yeah.
uh, follow that to have that discernment on if it's appropriate. Because I do know a relative in my family, like with a psychic, a charlatan, was told like, yeah, I can see that at 43 you're going to die. And she never married and she never pursued children. And at the age of 84 or 86 or something on her deathbed, she's like, far out, why did I hand over my power to that person?
Yeah.
So there's that mutual responsibility.
Oh, I've heard stories like that too, and yeah,
Yeah.
it's really, really sad. I actually think I mentioned one of the stories in my tarot readings. Oh no, sorry, in the tarot group, when we we're doing the tarot course, and I'm just like, because there are some misunderstandings when it comes to this. So, a lot of people are freaked out because they're worried that they're gonna get bad, and even when it comes to tarot readings, like this was from a tarot reading, but like they're freaked out that they're going to get bad messages and they don't want to know when they're going and they don't want to know all these things. But some of the stories is just so sad, and I've heard when people do give their power away. Okay, so like no one that I know, but a friend was telling me that her friend always dreamed of growing up, having kids, and getting married and doing all the things. And she went and got a tarot reading, and this person had told her that she can see her daughter, she's wearing a polka dot bikini, and she drowns at the age of 3. And she never had kids because she was so scared of that happening. And it's just
Yeah.
so, so sad. I don't know how we got over
Yeah.
to this, but like it's just
No.
so, so sad. So yeah, there is a bit of a misunderstanding around that as well. So it's nice
Yeah.
for you to
Because
explain that. Yeah.
instantly, like, that's a past life. That's a
Yeah.
past life that that psychic was picking up on. And it's like this lifetime, you're actually supposed to complete that. And so knowing, I get that, Jess. I get that when people are like, I'm having problems in my relationship. What if I see a psychic or a medium? They're going to tell me to break up. And in fact, that happened yesterday with a client. She was like, I've known you for ages, Claire, but I'm really having relationship problems and I've never brought it to your attention because I don't want to hear you tell me that I need to break it off. And I'm like, actually, that soul contracting that I'm talking about, the relationships, the lessons, the teachings, I'm not going to tell you to break up with somebody because that energy that you're carrying, you're just going to take it into the next relationship. And so let's bring in your spirit guides. Let's bring in your loved ones from the spirit world, and let's work out where you let yourself down, where you let your confidence go, where you brought in self-doubt, so that we can bring that sparkle back and you can show up in that relationship in a much higher standard to then have the choice on staying or leaving. And so, yeah, the spirit world and mediumship, they will get involved to help somebody navigate through rough waters like that.
Mm.
But the way, with the integrity that I work, I would I wouldn't be going to, drunk uncle to find out should you stay in the relationship. I'm actually going to go to your higher self and find out what's going on that's attracted this scenario in front of you. There's no doubt there's a past life there. No doubt that there's something here that needs to be completed so that that joy can come in. So yeah,
Cool.
fun
Very cool.
mediumship. You can see how it's all of our chats, the empath chat, the tarot chat, the past lives, all of this still comes back to mediumship. And while you and I are trying to stay in that lane of mediumship, yeah, it's all interconnected, right?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I agree. There's been so many times that I'm thinking, like we've spoken about tarot, you spoken about past life regression. Like I was thinking a lot around, like when I was speaking about the person who had committed suicide this weekend, like around me being an empath, and I'm like, okay, now how do I navigate this? Like the big energy and the feelings of the collective, and so you're right. It all comes back in, and it's just all so connected. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and that particular spirit, he's going to be he's absolutely going to be fine. He's been a bit of a messenger for even you and I in a higher level, but yeah, he's absolutely fine because I can tune into his energy. But it's just about you being in your body now, Jess, and just processing that and standing back and going, yeah, isn't that interesting? Because I know an empath like you're going to kind of merge into his life story and what would I have done? And I wish I could have helped, or why didn't somebody tell me? It was like, no. You just observe, just see that tornado over there and observe it, like, isn't that interesting? And I'll be over here holding the light and and helping the next person who is drawn to that. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
anyway, I'm waffling.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's great. So yeah, I had a question on, so we've spoken about, okay, this might not be exactly where we're going, but would love to try and explain it a little bit so that I can see if I'm right. So we've spoken a little bit about how you can, as a sitter, I can potentially block messages or block the whole thing coming through. And that's based on how open I am, and the beliefs and the feelings that I have. So if you, as the medium reading to me, can't connect to spirit, I don't know if this is actually connected,
Yeah.
but if you can't connect to spirit, like, what do you do? Like, how do you feel? And yeah, how does that work?
Yeah. So I mean, in the early days of my career, I would just understand that there's a learning for both of us here. And basically in my integrity, I just refund the money. But there's always going to be a reason why that person, the law of attraction, why that person has come to you. They're going to bring just as much as you're there to serve the sitter. As the medium, you're there to learn, like, okay, I need to learn more boundaries, or I need to put more structure into my business, or I need to go back to class and ask, how do I navigate that? So it's an invitation for the medium to actually upgrade their energy and do a bit more coaching and self-inquiry. For the sitter, the lessons will start to show themselves on. It's interesting when you go in with that fierce determination and like testing the medium, and then you get nothing, and there may be like sense of either, like, well, see, I told you, or it'll be disappointment. It's like, actually, what can I do? I'm actually disappointed that I spoiled that opportunity for myself, and so that may be an invitation for someone to do, yeah, a bit of self-coaching or healing on why they're so skeptic. I've worked with skeptics, and there's a healthy, I'm a skeptic at heart. Like, I want the evidence and I want the proof of survival. I'm not an airy fairy person in any way, shape, or form. So that's why I've delved into like the science of how all of this works and give me the proof and the evidence. I've worked with some really heavy duty skeptics, and I fully appreciate that while they're spiritually asleep, they were helping me spiritually wake up. So I'm not sure where I'm going with this conversation, but I'm just thinking about one particular person. I did past life regression with her. I brought through mediumship. She had the most spectacular high vibrational energy that she was tapped into. And no matter how many sort of like wows and rare moments, she still crossed her arms and like, yeah, okay, maybe. And you're like, far out. No, you that's your choice to be closed off. And then therefore it's my choice not to be tested anymore. I'll only work with the people who are willing and ready and curious and determined.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. Because
That's
I know
a,
like somebody like my brother would be spiritually asleep, and it's only
yeah.
because of him that I pushed myself so hard to not to get it right, but to perfect it. Yeah, it's only from him challenge. He once picked up my tarot cards and said, "Oh, what a load of nonsense. Oh, I'm seeing a guide. I'm seeing a person, Paul, and they're saying this." And no. I'm actually going, holy shit, that was the reading that I did for somebody yesterday. Like, James is picking up on some energy there, but he's so in his logical mind, and what a load of nonsense. Well, back then he may have changed since he's become a dad, but yeah, it's even the most skeptical of skeptics can are tuned into something.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I know some people that are a little bit skeptical, but I agree that they're tuned in for sure. They're just, yeah, turning that off. Yeah.
Yeah. And I did turn off my gifts, and I became so sick turning off my gifts and rejecting that part of me. So as I was saying earlier, like I don't understand how people like turn off their gifts or don't pursue their gifts and then walk this planet without that intuitive connection. Yeah, for me, it's just part of my identity. So yeah,
Oh my
like a
gosh.
crazy person.
I'm like the opposite. I want to lean more into it and explore more into it because I want more. Like it's so cool.
Yeah.
Well,
And have
yeah.
you found like the more that you find out, the more sometimes it's a little bit like the more that you find out, the more not necessarily overwhelmed, but it's sort of like the doors just keep opening, right?
Yeah, it's actually I don't know if it's yeah, how do I want to go into this? I feel like more and more comes and I just get more excited and I like it when I see more and I feel more and I see more signs and I feel like I'm talking to my, my loved ones and even understanding. I never this might be going completely in a tangent now, but I never thought that I was in any way a spiritual person until I met you and I had my spiritual awakening and I started learning and getting really open and loving everything about it and just feeling into my spiritual connection. I'm like the high priestess. That's what I'm thinking about. Anyway, going back into tarot, but and then I started thinking about like events and things when I was younger and how I can remember so much and looking into why my mum passed and what role I played in all of this. And I'm just like, whoa, I have been connected and things have been working in the divine timing, the right order, all the things. And I didn't even realize. And now I see it all and it makes so much sense. And that makes so much sense. And that makes so much sense. And I now know why you are my sister. And I now know why you are my, all the things. So it's just like, yeah, the more I lean into it, the more it comes to me. And I'm just like, yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, it is fun. That's that word again. Like, yeah, it is a lot of fun, and the thing to keep in mind, and for you and your listeners, if you do have somebody in the spirit world, ask them for a sign that they're around. Use what's in your library that resonates for you. I had a client whose grandfather died, and I said, he says he's going to bring around ladybugs or lady beetles, whatever they're called, the red ones with the little black dots. He's going to bring those around. And she's like, yeah, okay, that's nice. And then her son went out and picked a flower and came in and there was the ladybird. And I was like, whoa, okay. And then she was at work and somebody came in with a ladybird on their shoulder and it was like, oh, okay. And then something else happened and there was a ladybird on her son's bike or something of that nature. And it was like, okay,
Yeah.
all the synchronicities are full tingles there, as evidence that like, yeah, grandpa's there with you and hanging out with the family. And so that can be dragonflies, that can be songs, that can be numbers, that can be perfume, that can be feathers. Yeah, and as I was saying, like the where is on my shoulder, the little blue wren, there's a few of them on my shelf. I was at a photo shoot the other day and we looked up and there was this blue wren painted above the cafe table that we were sitting on. I was like, yeah, Nanny's around. Like,
Oh,
she doesn't need to tell me that she's there. It was just like, woo. and
yeah.
and even me who can tune in, tap in and see her anytime I want, just that sign as my
Yeah.
nose is going there, like Nanny's
Yeah.
coming forward.
Yeah.
But yeah, like for you, Jess, it would be like give your mum, I know what your mum's sign is for me, but use the symbols. That's the easiest way for them to communicate is through symbols. I heard John Edward, one of the famous mediums, say like, um, I think he was trying to make a point. He was saying like, how do deaf people communicate? Why don't they just say it? And it's like, well, because they're deaf, they use a different language to communicate. And it's a two-way street to learn that language, whether it's hand gestures, sign language. And they're in the spirit world. They have to, coming to us in this density of the 3D from where they are in the 5 and 6D, is like plunging into a deep ocean. Like they really do have to hold their breath and do some phenomenal work with their energy for us to connect. And the quickest way that they can do that is through symbols and the things that are around us, such as like it's so much easier to send in a ladybird than get you to make a call with a medium and book in and let's have a chat. So they will use everything around them, and you've just got to ask for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I completely resonate. Like I've done this when I started learning more about this. I'm like, I can talk to, my loved ones. So I was just playing around and like with this knowing that they're always with me in the things. I was like, oh, why not? So it was really funny. I was like, okay, like talking to Bar, like if you're around, show me a sign. And it was more that I like didn't, and I was like, I want to see, I went so specific. I said, I want to see a turtle. And it
Yeah.
was funny because I laughed to myself because I had this big stuffed turtle. And I've called him Freddie. And I'm like, okay, but not Freddie. Like Freddie doesn't count. So anyway, I sort of like let it go, let it happen because I know I don't want to fixate on it. It's yeah. And it was so funny. So the next morning, we were in the middle of our boss trip. This was a couple months ago. And I walked into like the massage therapist's room to give it a refresh. And in the corner, I saw it was my cup. And so she'd obviously used it. And I was like, oh, I had a double take. Like I looked at it and I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like I haven't seen that cup in like 6 months' time. I'm glad someone's using it. And then I double looked and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's my cup and it has about 20 turtles on it. Like it's got a turtle pattern. So it was even nicer that it was actually my cup as well. And then
Yeah.
later on that day, oh, I just felt so good in that moment. But later on that
Yeah, yeah,
day,
yeah. Love the
um,
turtles.
yeah, I had like a little moment for myself. But I was talking to my boyfriend, he was off doing courses at the specific time. And I was so excited to tell him. He's very all about the science as well, open-minded but very in the scientific way. I don't know if that's the right sort of thing
Yeah,
to say,
yeah.
but I was telling him on the phone, I was like, this is what happened and this is what I asked Bar for, and then I saw this, and I was telling him the story, and he's just like, whoa, have you opened the video that I sent you on Instagram? I'm like, oh no, I've been so busy. Like I saw you sent me a reel, but I've just been way too busy to open it. And he goes, you have to go open it like right now. So, because he'd sent this to me like 5 hours earlier, and I was like, okay, whatever. I went and looked at it. It's like all of these turtles, like there's about 100
No.
of turtles in this video that he sent me. And I was just like, whoa. And even he was like, whoa, that's pretty cool. So yeah, I really love
Yeah.
the signs, like asking for the signs and doing that. Yeah.
And you're right, like people, the spirit world will use any way they can to get the message across, like tapping Nate on the shoulder, send her this one. So
Yeah. 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 Oh my gosh. I love it. Yeah. Oh my gosh, Claire, this has been amazing. I was just wanting to check in with you. Was there anything else you think needs to come through in this episode?
we will not invite the spirit world to come and
Oh.
do mediumship. No, but I think like, from covering walk-ins to getting people set up for their own mediumship, connecting in with their loved ones, it comes back to appreciating people who are alive and in your company now and having those conversations and yeah, really connecting in while you can. Life's precious and yet we know that they're always with us on some level. So yeah, it's
Mm,
beautiful. It's been a beautiful conversation today.
yeah.
Can't believe this is number 5.
Oh. I know we were speaking earlier about, oh my gosh, it's number 5 already.
There's
Oh,
more, but it'll come next year, right?
oh yeah, for sure. I mean, just because this is a 6-part series does not mean that there's only going to be 6 episodes in our lifetime. There's going to be plenty more, for sure. So
Yeah.
yeah, I just want to thank you so, so much again, Claire. This is definitely, oh, I say definitely, but I've loved every single conversation. But I was going to say this has definitely been one of my favorite conversations that we've had. I think it hits so close to my heart, and I feel like this is such a beautiful, well, all the messages that have come through for the listeners today, and just like coming from you, I think I just want to thank you so, so much.
Thank you, Jess. And yeah, it's been beautiful to share these little tips and messages with everybody. And I think next time we come together, we're talking about twin flames. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. I was going to ask you, but I think so. I'm very keen to talk about that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so get those questions into Jess about twin flames, and boy, oh
Yeah.
boy, we're
And
going to
get
finish on the high.
excited. Yes, we are. Well, actually, I'm really we'll talk about it next. I was gonna say I'm really excited to talk about this twin flame because it's something that I haven't explored too much. So and all Claire's plugs will be in the show notes as always, and we
Yeah.
can't wait to see you all on the next episode.
Thanks, everybody. Bye, Jess.